Nation. I'm Tony Pellegrino, and this is April 29th. Thanks for tuning into Tech Talk. Tech Talk is something that we do every Wednesday at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And today we're over in the motorsports shop where we're assembling Terremoto. So I wanted to give you an update and show you some of the detail and things that we do that's different, that separates us from everybody else. So this is going to give you a look. Most people have never seen a Jeep blown apart like this. So this is really a great way to show everybody what we're doing, how we're doing it, and like I said, show you the difference, what separates us from everybody else. So thanks for joining in, and we're going to get going here, okay? As always, you can ask questions by typing in a comment, and please include as much information as you can or as much detail on your question so that Jamie can read those back to me, and I can try and answer your question to the best of my ability. Today's show is about an update on Terremoto. So I know Jeff and the guys posted some photos of Terremoto yesterday that was mostly assembled, and what we had done was we had a complete test fit of everything, and then we went ahead and blew it back apart. So yeah, it's very interesting to see it this way. Is there a problem with the mics, James? Like, do I need to put on the other one? Yeah. It's not switched back to the laptop. We'll see if this works better. All right. Hopefully everybody can hear me a little better. Anyways, today's show is about what's involved, right? This is the detail work of really putting this thing together and making sure we've got everything. Now, of course, Terremoto is the flagship for GenRight Off-Road as a company, which, if you're not familiar, GenRight is short for Genuine Ideas Engineered Right. So we like to say, do it right the first time. That's one of our slogans around here. And what Terremoto 2 represents is everything that I wanted to do. You know, once you finish something, you always come up with other, better ways to do it. And I thought about all those things for years, and then I finally had a chance to rip apart the original Terremoto and do it, all the improvements that I wanted to. So we're really getting a chance to do some of these things, or at least I am, and enjoying that quite a bit. So I wanted to share all that with you guys. So this is what's been happening around here. I mean, obviously, we've been doing other things. We've got Gringo 392 is back here in the shop. We've got another EXS build. We've got more EXS builds going right here. So we've got quite a few things going on, as well as the Vector suspension for the JL that a lot of you have been waiting for. So don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you. And I'm still working on my little project, TJ, that I know a lot of you are following along on too. So lots of fun stuff. Okay. So James, how are we zoomed in on the TV screen now? Can we? You can see it pretty clear. Pretty clear? Well, this is the detail stuff that I really want them to be able to. What's that? You don't want to move?
Well, let me reposition. I'm trying to keep track of the
Oh, okay. Why, are people already asking stuff?
Yeah, someone had a question about 97 TJ something.
Okay. Well, maybe we get to those after we run through some of this. Okay, so we're pretty zoomed in here. Cool. And they can hear me good now? Yes. Okay. All right, so as you can see, you know, I've got the motor sitting right here in front of me, but it was a little bit easier for us to just take some high resolution images and show you guys. Edelbrock is the parent company to Fast, so I've got a brand new Fast throttle body on an Edelbrock Victor Jr. manifold, Edelbrock fuel rails. Fast gave me some brand new injectors. This is their brand new series. I just saw they were promoting this over on social media as well. And then you can see the coil packs here on the valve covers, typical LS thing. I did put some brand new ceramic plug wires on here. And of course, I'm running the Iridium spark plugs. If you follow this along, I did just recently do the Edelbrock heads. And here's a little bit better picture of, one of the Edelbrock heads, and you can see those new plug wires. You can see just the top of the new steering box. And then this is what we spent a lot of time. We spent 2 days on getting what's called the accessories on the front of the engine dialed in, right? So there's a lot to do with this. You've got to get the offset, the angle, everything's got to be perfect so that that belt will run nice and true at 6,000, 7,000 RPM. And otherwise it'll start eating itself or it'll just throw it off. And we also focused on the amount of wrap around each pulley so that you really have the right amount of power being transferred from the crank through all of the accessories. So we've got a brand new DC power high amp alternator like we've always run on our King of the Hammers race cars. And what else can you see in this picture? This is one of our power steering pulleys that we manufacture here. That's vented, so it actually throws air across the power steering pump, which is right behind it. I did do a brand new steam port setup on here, and then I do want to note part of one of the Edelbrock companies is Russell's, and Russell's makes all the cool AN fittings and hose and everything. So I'm outfitting the entire fuel system, the automatic transmission, for all the cooling, and what else? There was something else I was doing with Russell's, but I've been really doing all that plumbing. You can see here I do have a manual gauge as well on the fuel rail, so I can monitor the fuel pressure, even though it's also monitored electronically. I like to have if everything goes out, I still know what's going on. So kind of a cool shot there. And we do run all ARP studs on our engine, and bolts. Here's one of the cool things that I did want to show everybody. This is an extra thing that we do. So we weld some tabs onto the side of the frame. We run hard lines so like from the front of the vehicle to the back of the vehicle. And then we run short jumpers, whether it's from the frame over to the control arm, and then a hard line back down the control arm. It does mean a little bit of extra plumbing, but it is the right way to do it. That gives you the least sponge in the pedal.
Knothead Fab asked, what's your favorite way to run the brake line?
So that's what you're touching. So this is what I'm touching on. And I know it's a little bit hard to see here because it's not really in focus, but this is a special clamp we make. And they're stainless steel. And what it does is it clamps onto the control arm with a bolt, and then it holds the bulkhead so that it makes it really easy to run. And I know we had some extra ones over here, but I think we already took them back across the street. So you can see the Johnny joints, the Summit links, the JE reel drive shaft. You're looking at the side of my 4L80 transmission. So you get a little bit of detail there. We always run Unitorque nuts on all of our grade 8 hardware. That's another nice feature. My cost difference between this good nut and say a Nylock nut is only about 10 to 20 cents. So, really I'd rather just provide the good one, and then you've got the best. This is the stuff we've used on the race car. We know it holds up, and it's really the best stuff. So another good example, to show you guys the extra things we go through. Yep.
Mr. Rickstar.
Do you have a mic over there, James?
I do.
Okay.
Mr. Rickstar, if you want, run or don't run your power steering pulley on my new PSC pump hydro assist 2004 TJ. Ran pulley on it. The factory pump, is it too much for the PSC?
No. In fact, our pump is about, it's 10% smaller, the pulley. And what that does is it makes it run a little faster so that you get a little bit more steering out of it, in addition to looking cool and having the vented blades built into it to throw the air. So that it was originally intended for, TJ, YJ, XJ, and, in this case, I'm running a TC or even a CBR pump. It'll fit on those those pump shafts. So that's a great pulley. James got another question.
What size hardline do you run for brakes?
For brakes? Yeah, the brakes are all -3 AN, right? And then for the fuel, I run -6, and for the transmission, I run -8. So those are all good questions, and with keep in mind, because I just had a customer here asking me questions about why we did things, and I go back to, look, we've been running this on the previous version of Terremoto since 2012, so it worked fine, and we know it works. So why would we make a change? So for instance, like the fuel system, we regulate it at the back where the tank is, and we only feed the pressurized fuel forward at 60 psi, which we monitor by this gauge and through the Motec. So, which is this gauge here. And then there's a Motec sensor right here on the other fuel rail. So we monitor on both sides of the fuel rail so we can see what's happening. All this stuff, most people don't even think about it. They just hook it up and go. I pay careful attention to this stuff because if something goes wrong, it helps me diagnose what's happening. Are we out of fuel? Are we, losing a ground connection? Is there something else happening? We have so much time on the trail and through racing that I've had just about everything that can go wrong. Even right down to, and I know we already showed a picture of the alternator, but the stud that's in the alternator, somebody had torqued it incorrectly and it broke the stud loose inside the alternator, and we were chasing a loose, or inconsistent power problem, and it turned out to be that loose stud inside the alternator. Did you have another question, James?
Someone said, could Terremoto 2 have survived this year's hammers?
I think so. Terremoto 2 is, like I say, it's got all the things that I didn't have in my original Terremoto, which did do the hammers. Now this year's hammers, third lap was nobody had pre-run and stuff. I don't think there's a problem. Now keep in mind, I did pre-run 2 of the 3 laps actually I ran an aftershock. Terremoto was torn apart. So, my GenRight vehicles, can go out there and do that stuff. Now, obviously, at race pace, you start making other mistakes and, hitting stuff and doing things that maybe you wouldn't normally do. But, I've got the best, shocks and air bumps on here. I've got the Curry axles. I've got, giant Mickey Thompson tires and Raceline wheels and Summit links and, a Reed 4 L80 transmission, a built LS3 Atlas transfer case. It's really, quite built, and a lot of this stuff is transitioned over from our old race car. So here's another shot of the engine, and part of what I wanted to show. Oh, here's that stud in the alternator I was talking about that had come loose, in a previous vehicle. So we know to watch for that. Is this right here? This is some DEI fire shield, and I've got a little piece of it over here that I will show you. And this stuff is silicone on the outside, and it's got some, I don't know what it is, fiberglass or asbestos or something on the inside, but it's furry. And you coat, things that you don't want to get hot or catch on fire, which in this case is my main fuel supply to the engine from the gas tank. So yeah, we take extra special care in that and make sure, you know, that you don't either have abrasion or if something gets hot, like the transmission, that nothing can get to that fuel line. This is also an SFI rated super thick transmission bell housing. So that's a race legal one, and that way if something comes apart, that's beefy enough to keep it together. So, yeah. More questions, James?
Real quick, unrelated.
Sure.
97 TJ stroker. What do you think of the rear coil spring correction brackets on a TJ to LJ, making the rear springs straight up and down instead of curved 4-inch long arm and 35s?
Okay, yeah. Obviously, that's one of the reasons we sell that kit is I don't like how they're leaning. I do like them straighter. So yeah, I'm a big fan of that. That's our RSM 2150. If you're on our website, it's an easy install and yeah, nice upgrade on that. What else you got, James?
Troy Merritt,
Yeah.
why didn't you make the other pulleys with the same design to move the air?
Which other pulleys?
Like all of them?
Well, here, let me go back. Do we have a shot of the front of the engine, James?
I think, yeah, we do. But I think the other ones are too small to have.
They are, yeah. That's what oh, no, I guess we haven't gotten there yet.
Maybe not.
Let me find,
There should be a shot of it somewhere.
here we go. Okay, so, you know, you can see the So this is the front of the engine. Let's go over it. Here's the power steering pulley right here that is vented. You've got your crank pulley, which is a solid unit because it's got a dampener built into it. You have two small idlers and a tensioner, the water pump, and then the alternator, which is a tiny pulley, but it's got fan blades behind it that are built into it that suck air through it. And that's it. That's how simple the front of the engine is. So there's really no need to vent any of the other pulleys. Okay, so I wanted to go back to here. And of course, you know, this is one of the nice features on Terremoto is a Reed Super 80 transmission case. And then, like I was talking about, the heavy duty SFI bell housing. This line right here is the dipstick. This line right there is that fire shield fuel line. So that runs and gets across the other side of the vehicle away from the exhaust. So just kind of a cool close up there. Now, here and here are going to be the two spots that I run the transmission cooling lines. So tomorrow those will have fittings on them. And then here's our Atlas transfer case. And we do certain things where we mark things so we know where the clocking is and everything. Here's that fuel line, you know, with the fire shield on it running across and getting out of the way. Underneath here is where the drive shaft hooks up for the rear drive shaft. Front drive shaft's over here. So you can just see everything's super clean, brand new, really nice. Here's some of the Fox reservoir, you know, for the remote reservoir with the clickers on it. Here's the air bump. I did machine these bushings here and weld those in because there were large holes in the frame for European models, you know, where the steering box is on the other side. I didn't want to see those large holes, so I welded those in. And these are drilled just for lightweight, but they don't actually go all the way through, so I didn't want that to crush in any way. And here's another shot of the engine, kind of the same. That you can see I think this is the same picture that we were talking about before with the pulleys. And this is our, of course you guys know I run the dual Phantom Aeromotive fuel pumps in here. And then right now I'm building the part of the fuel system, right? So this is the regulator. This is where the fuel supply comes in, and then it goes out through the filter and up to the engine. So this is all part of that system. So I just wanted to show you some of that. We do some special stuff where it runs through the frame to keep it from rubbing. And those are the extra steps that a lot of people don't take.
Lawrence LJ, I don't see a rear support for the tall housing on the Atlas. Why not?
So what you can't see is the transmission mount on Terremoto is under the Atlas, and it actually picks up on the lower part of the case. Let me see. Is that even remotely visible? No, you really can't see it. But it grabs from underneath here. You can just barely see a piece of it right there coming off this big cross member. But this is the way I've always had it on Terremoto with, nearly 650 horsepower. And it's worked perfectly. So we're not fixing something that's not broken. Okay, what are we looking at here? Oh, okay. So this is the top of my fuel cell. Now, this is a 2.5-inch fill hose right now that's capped off because we haven't, with the body off, the rest of the hoses go. And this is the vent. But this is the dual aeromotive Phantom fuel pump. You're looking at the top on it. And you've got pump 1, pump 2, and then a return line. And then we've got some Deutsch connectors that run each of the pumps. And through my Motec system, it actually monitors the fuel pressure. And if it sees a 3-pound drop, it fires the other fuel pump. So this is a really cool setup. And this is a true bladder tank made for racing back when I raced King of the Hammers in 2020. So yeah, this tank will take 22 gallons in 30 seconds. So it's, you can really top it off quick, and it's a 36-gallon tank. So that's pretty cool. And again, you can see it's all AN fittings and everything on that. And then here's another view that you rarely get to see, kind of looking forward on the transmission. And here's that fuel supply line with the fire shield on it from DEI that I was talking about, and how we route that. Here's the Atlas, there's the 4L80, and then of course the LS3. And you can barely see the drive shaft right here. So kind of just, kind of a unique view of what we're looking at. Pretty cool, I think.
I have a 2012 JKU with GenRight gas tank relocating the evap canister. Does it matter if the evap canister is hung upside down?
No, it's fine. You have to keep that evap canister within a 3-foot radius of the gas tank. So what I usually do is mount it on the opposite side of the muffler. Don't get it close to the exhaust. It'll melt. It's not high temperature plastic. So yeah, you can move it opposite of the muffler underneath. Make sure that none of your suspension is going to hit it as the suspension travels up and down. But yeah, you're fine. And keep the lines as short as you can. Don't have a bunch of extra hose on there because it really needs to stay close to the gas tank. Okay. What else you got?
Troy Meredith, do you plan on making a drop down tailgate for TJLJ?
TJLJ?
What it says.
Is that what he said?
A drop tailgate for TJLJ.
We did for a while, but by that time, several other people had already come out with them. So I think Richard Garrett has one, actually. I don't know, but anyways, there's so many people that are willing to make them for no profit that we just said, I think we're going to pass on that. So unless there was people that demanded to have GenRight. Yeah, I think we just say, check elsewhere. Okay.
Mr. Rickstar, looking at the Atlas.
Yeah.
I've got a 2004 TJ AX15 manual transmission now.
Yep.
Would I have to get a different Atlas if I go with an LS 480 translator?
So, good question. Let me back up. There's two things that would change. So this machined part right here, that's actually part of the Atlas, okay? This piece right here with this divot in it, that is an adapter, okay? So Advanced Adapters makes these adapters that go from different transmissions. So in this case, this one's specific to a 4L80. In your case, you'd get a different looking one. And they could answer the question about how many splines are on the input. Now, the input on the transfer case can be changed relatively easily without, sending the case back or having to sell the case. It is possible for them to switch that out, or you can do it, or a qualified shop can do it. But you will have a different adapter than I do, yes. What else you got?
That's all for now.
Okay, I'm going to keep going then. Here's another shot of the brake lines and the fuel line, right? So on this part of the frame, the hard stainless steel brake line is directly underneath this fuel line. And you can see in this transition, what we do is we put another piece of rubber hose on even though this is braided steel fuel line, I still don't want wear points. So I put another piece of hose on top of here, and then you can see the small jumper, and then it goes down the control arm, and there's that clamp again that we were talking about. There's one at each end. And by the way, each one of these little pieces of flexible, braided steel brake line, they're the same here, and now we're looking at the rear axle, right? There's one here, there's one right there. They're the same on the front, on both ends of those two lines. And sorry, I was hoping you could see how we routed the brake lines on the axle, because we do an incredible job of tailoring them to fit along there. You can see the high pinion Curry 70 with the JE reel drive shaft, and of course the Summit machine links and genuine Johnny joints there. So yeah, lots of good stuff in that shot there. Oh, here you go. This is a clearer view of what that looks like. You can see how we just follow the shape of the housing very closely with the brake lines. Just incredible detail. And there's that short jumper at the axle side. And yeah, lots of good stuff. These are 1350 U-joints, and you can see the back of the 36-gallon gas tank there. So, yeah.
KS Durham.
Sure.
My 2016 JKU radiator cooling fan is now rattling when it cycles on during idle. Have you experienced this, and do you have a solution or recommendation?
So typically, the rattles that I've heard are from the fan shroud. And, typically you can shove a piece of rubber or even a dab of RTV silicone somewhere, just find the loose part. And if you use RTV, you got to give it, a few hours to dry, but you should be able to isolate that and get rid of it. If you think the rattle is actually internal on the fan, then it might be time to replace the fan, especially if you've gone through some deep water or mud or something. That typically, if the fan's spinning, it gets in there and it just wrecks the housing and the motor. So if that's been the case, then I would definitely replace the fan itself. What else you got? Okay. Here's another shot of the other side of the transmission. And now we got a close-up of the 1350, yoke on the front drive shaft.
That's driver's side.
This is driver's side, yep. And you can see the brake line, the hard brake line running down the control arm. And yeah, you can also see my oil filter, because it's a remote oil filter off the pan. And we do all that because you got to have clearance that, this upper link will come all the way up here to the bottom of the motor mount. So there's a lot of travel, in this suspension. So.
Lawrence Eldred, if you have a caliper failure issue, you can just tap one off at the line where it goes in.
You could, yeah. Yeah, you absolutely could. So I don't have them in here, but on Terremoto, so it's just out of the frame, but the brake lines stop right here on the frame and they come up on the firewall in the Jeep. And they run to my brake system, which by the way is full manual brake system, no power assist. And that gives you much better modulation, but I have 2 control valves and I can shut off the front or the rear on the vehicle. And that way, if a brake line got torn from a rock or a branch or something, I don't have to worry about it. I can just isolate that. I still have front or rear brakes and get to the next spot where it's convenient to replace it, or, in my case, might be a pit stop or something. So yeah, those are good options. It does take a little bit of extra brake line plumbing to do that. In my case, I have those valves right on the dash. So that's, and you can find that stuff on our website too.
In worst case, I have a bag with vice grips and zip ties, and you can just pinch the line.
Yeah, you can, but then, you're wrecking the line. But I think what that customer was referring to is you could just take the line off the caliper and then put a AN plug in it.
Which I also carry.
Which you also carry. Yeah, good. Good, yeah. So I just carry another jumper brake line and I just fix it, and I'm good to go. And my brakes have adjustable bias as well, so that way I put more toward the front, but it helps to set the vehicle up as you come into a corner. And if you've ever ridden with me, Terremoto corners just insanely good. What else you got?
97 TJ Stroker. Should I get an MP241T case from a TJ Rubicon with 4-to-1 or an Atlas with a 5-to-1 456 gears on 35s, 4.7 stroker AX15?
Okay, so for, obviously you're on 35s right now. I'm imagining you're going to 37s at some time in the future. But normally I wouldn't recommend a 5-to-1 unless you're on 40s. So, you're probably fine to stick with that 4-to-1, like the Rubicon case. You can also get a 4.3-to-1 Atlas if you want to go that route. A lot of the time, what happens is, a lot of people make the choice about going with a Rubicon case, depending on availability of either the Rubicon case or the Atlas. But there is a huge advantage to going with the Atlas because you have front and rear control, where on a standard transfer case, you just have high or low. So on an Atlas, you have front or rear in high or low. And that's a huge advantage when you're off-road. And I know it may not seem like it, and we've done a couple videos on this, and even some of our customers that come in for $100,000 builds, think, oh, I don't need that. You guys are trying to sell me something extra. And then when we get on the trail and they go, hey, how did you just do that front dig, to get around the rock or the corner or whatever it was? And I'm like, well, that's the Atlas. And, then they go, oh, geez, now I understand. So one of the things that I always tell people is anything you see on one of my vehicles there isn't one single thing on here by mistake. Every single thing is carefully thought out, carefully placed, carefully chosen. You know, the manufacturer, the quality, the location, like everything about it. There is a ton of thought that's gone behind everything on this vehicle. So, yeah, there's nothing by mistake, and I didn't just put it on because it's the coolest or the latest and greatest. I don't care about latest and greatest. I want true function, reliability, quality. I want to know that thing's going to work every single time I need to use it. So, what else you got, Jim?
Matt from Matt McDonough. It looks like there's enough room to run the exhaust down both sides of the engine and trans. Do you plan to run dual exhaust?
So it's a little bit hard to tell, but this is the upper link mount, and there's not a lot of room. Like this comes right. I mean, there's just a 3/8 of an inch between this and the floor. So you got the drive shaft moving up and down here, and the frame, is right there. I think you can see it on maybe that other image we had. Yeah, here. So without the body on, it looks like there's a ton of room, but there really isn't when these links and drive shaft are coming up and down. Beside the fact that I just showed you how I run the fuel line down this side, I don't want the fuel anywhere near the exhaust. So I keep the exhaust on the opposite side, on the passenger side, all the way down. And, keep in mind on a vehicle like this, the exhaust is 3-inch diameter. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to evacuate that heat as fast as we can. If you restrict the exhaust, it just builds more heat in the engine. So we want to get that out of there as fast as we can. And I found a really high quality MagnaFlow muffler that works perfect for our application, and that's what we use, not only on Terremoto, but on our Tracer builds, on our EXS builds, all of our Elite builds. So, good question though.
Hunter Dinger, what do you put to seal the pinch seams when cutting the wheel wells?
Say that again. What do I do? What?
What do you put to seal the pinch welds when you cut the wheel well?
In the rear. Do I have any close-up pics on that?
Not specifically.
No. Okay.
What do you use to seal it?
So if I'm trying to decipher their question, are you cutting apart the pinch seam and you need to reattach it, like re-weld it, or are you talking about there's one there and you just want to make sure it doesn't leak or get water in it? Because then I would use a paintable silicone or acrylic latex, caulking. And that's what I did on this in the rear. So, or like right here on the front, there's 3 layers that are open, and I seal all that so that, you can't, dirt, water, nothing will get in there. So,
I think that's what he's
okay.
That's it.
That's why I'm always like, you got to be so specific on your questions, because I've got a few different ways to answer it. What do we got here, James? This is just the close-up of us insulating the fuel line, the rear brake lines, that side of okay, here's a great close-up of that little bracket that I was talking about. So you can see that it clamps onto the control arm. We sell them in different sizes, and it comes with a little stainless steel bolt and nylock nut, but then you run a bulkhead style and fitting in here. That tightens down on this little loop that's built into the clamp, and then you run your soft line in here or your flexible line in here, and then your hard line down the control arm. So yeah, really, really great shot, James. That's exactly the one I was looking for. So that way, you got about 2 or 3 feet of hard line on the control arm instead of flexible. Every little bit of flex, does give you some sponge in the brake pedal. And at the level of performance that I'm looking for is very high. And I want everything to be snappy and feel good so that I know exactly where everything's at. One of the things that I was going to talk about is we always refer to, King of the Hammers and all this stuff. Well, one of the reasons that we use King of the Hammers as the bar is because it is the only race where you go fast, like as fast as you can, and then you got to slow down and rock crawl. And those two things, if you can build a vehicle that can do both, you've really got something. And that's what we set is the standard for all of our suspension. And that level of performance is great, okay? So that's one level. The next is, can it go for 200 plus miles of a beating? And that's, and we're talking about it in one day. So that's a lot of stress on parts. That's a lot of heat. That's a real beating on your vehicle. And that's the ultimate bar. So you got to go fast, slow, and make it for 200 miles. And man, if you can do that, you've got something. And we've proven that. Terremoto 1 went out there and did that in 2020. And there's in the 4400 class. Now, keep in mind, there's lots of different classes. So 4400 is the unlimited. That is the very high end where there's typically only buggies. So I was racing, a four-door Jeep with our Elite suspension on it, and I was, one of the 30, the only out of 100, only 30 finish. I was one of those guys that finished. So that's, whether you realize it or not, that's a huge accomplishment. Every year there's 70 people that don't finish, and they're in purpose-built race buggies. So that just shows you how tough it is. So what we're offering you in a Jeep, now you can drive on the street. You can't drive a buggy on the street. Now you can take your street legal Jeep and have that kind of reliability. I don't know about you, but I like to overbuild stuff so that I don't have to work on it out there. I don't mind working on it here, but I don't want to work on it out there. So if that's your same mindset, then you're watching the right channel, that's for sure.
So contradinger back to the pinch seam.
Yeah.
He's cutting the front and rear wheel wells to open it up for 40.
Okay.
Do you use silicone or welded plate?
Okay, so good question. So because our brand new dovetail corners are set to really open it up for a 42, what we do is we provide this plate. So this goes in the rear, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, because when you cut right by the door, you cut that open, 3 layers appear. And then we give you this plate that you weld on, you form it, you bend it and form it and get it to fit all nice. And you can even trim it to, depends on how far you cut it back, whether you'll need the whole plate or not. But this is a very important piece to sealing that all back up. Then after I do the best job with silicone and I seal this off, I don't want any water getting inside there. So there's foam and all kinds of stuff inside there. So I want to keep everything out of there. I think that's probably going to answer his question.
Yeah. Jeep Adventures.
And by the way, Jamie and I just shot a video on that today because I was showing everybody how I did it. So that will be coming out shortly. I don't know, was that like Friday, James, that video will be coming out? Yeah, so Friday or Saturday, we'll be posting that video, so you'll get to see that in a lot of detail.
Jeep Adventures asked, what is your master cylinder off of, or is it custom?
So I don't think it's out here. I think maybe Blake's got it right now. But mine is a Willwood, and it's got a special length pedal that gives you the right leverage ratio. And I've selected 2 different sizes of master cylinder bores, and one runs the front because it's a 6-piston, one runs the rear because it's a 4-piston. And when I finish this build, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post all the part numbers, the exact part numbers, right down to every little AN fitting, everything I used. So if you decide you want to build yourself a vehicle just like this, you'll have every exact part number that you can just order up the parts and have exactly the same parts that I'm running. And I'm talking about every Edelbrock part, Russell's part, the coil packs, the plug wires, the alternator, the belt, the starter, like every single piece I put on here, you'll be able to order up. More trouble? Doing okay?
People say no audio
Really?
from me or you. But
Is the one
really have all the mics.
the one on the camera is still registering? You see the little bar graph?
Still in there? Keep talking.
Keep talking. Now, some are blue and some are green? Huh. Okay. So what I was saying is we will be sharing every single part number for every fitting, every belt, every plug wire, everything that we've used to build Terremoto. So, you'll be able to build, a copy of it if you want to. Okay. Does it sound like they got us again, James?
Everyone says like now it's good, and everyone said they just had to refresh their page.
Oh, geez. Did they miss anything in particular? Can somebody tell me if I need to repeat something?
Yeah, they said just refresh now I can hear.
Okay.
It was a YouTube issue.
Okay, so just find out, James, if they need me to, like,
Just say
okay, why don't you grab one of these mics again? Why don't you grab one so that you've got one? Well, you're reading the questions.
well, everyone said they can't hear me anyway.
Oh, okay. All right. So on the screen now, this is a close-up shot of our remote oil filter on the side of the engine. This is on the driver's side. And these are Dash 8 hoses like I was telling you about with this special DEI fire shield over the top of the hose. And this is all the stuff I was talking about because this runs very near the exhaust. So there's a lot of heat right here. And I want to make sure that none of this gets too hot. In fact, once everything's done, I put a little shield over this because I pick up oil temperature right here. And I want to make sure that I'm not getting a false temperature reading from, ambient, radiating heat from the exhaust. The header is very, very hot. So. But yeah, here's a good detailed shot of that going into a Kevco oil pan, which by the way is oversized. That's 4 extra quarts. So, I want to make sure I got plenty of oil. And that's got a trap inside so that it keeps all the oil right at the pickup. If you've never seen one of those, they're really cool. And that also separates the oil from hitting the bottom of the crankshaft. So, which takes away power and it aerates the oil, which you don't want. So, yeah, lots of cool stuff. Another shot of the fast manifold and the fuel rails, and Jamie was just getting different perspectives. I did put a steam port kit on that shares the 4 ports together and then runs back to the radiator. A lot of time people have trouble getting the air out of the heads, and this is a nice way to do it. So that's kind of cool. Here you can see a little bit of my steering linkage that's on the inside of the shock tower. This would normally be connected to the firewall, but obviously we've got the firewalls way up top here. And yeah, power steering pump again. And in this shot, you can actually see the solid body mounts that I machined. I'm removing all of the rubber body mounts. I'm going solid. And that'll be a kit that we're offering. And these are our heavy duty body mounts on the frame. So that's important too. The factory ones just kind of mush. And this beefs that up, and then I'm doing a solid body mount. And then of course, my cage will be directly connected to the front part of the frame and the rear part of the frame as well. So that helps to strengthen everything up. Again, you can see that fuel line running all the way back. You can see, again, the brake lines with the hard line here, the drive shafts, the summit links. This is the bottom of the double triangulated 4-link rear. The upper links are just out of view. This is the cross member for the Elite in the rear, and then there's another one hiding up here in the front. And then, of course, the Atlas and the 4L80 and everything, but a good shot of the frame and kind of gives you a good perspective. These are 42s that I have on here right now, so if you wondered what size tire that was. And, yeah. Any other questions right this second, Jay?
Nothing serious.
Okay. Again, another view of the solid body mount. And then you can also, this is the bulkhead right here for those brake lines that would come down the firewall. So you can see the solid running, which is, that thing is 6 feet long, running from here to the back. And that's if that was all flex, your factory ones are solid. They're not stainless and they're not AN fittings and stuff, but this is really the right way to do it for sure. And you get to see a little bit of the Atlas there with the drive shaft and the upper link mount with that short piece of braided brake line and then the clamp again. And that's all the images we have. So if anybody's got any more questions on the build itself, then we can specifically look or address those. Otherwise, I'm ready to go into events.
One question, Mr. Rickstar. Do you use new hardware for the TJ body mounts? Question mark. If you get the 1.5 raised one.
Yes, yeah, it comes with brand new, longer hardware, and yeah, you're definitely gonna want to use that for sure. I was gonna mention to everybody when I'm doing a refresh like this, every single nut, bolt, washer is brand new. For $100 worth of hardware, I'd rather have everything brand new and know it's all 100%. I am putting a brand new steering pump, steering lines, steering reservoir, steering ram. So basically the entire steering system is brand new. It's our brand new box and everything. So that's new. And I was going to mention these Summit machine links are 2 1/4 on the bottom and 2 inch on the top. Go ahead, Jim.
Cole Osmondson, do you raise the body off the frame more than stock?
Not on Terremoto, but on a TJ or a YJ build we do. We need more room for the Atlas and the other components that are bigger. Plus it allows us to make the suspension mounts a little taller, so you get a little bit more optimal geometry out of the suspension. The JK frame is 2 inches thicker than the factory TJ YJ, so you don't have to put any additional height in the JK frame. It's already got it built into the frame itself. Yep.
Jeff Frank, why are you going solid body mount instead of stock?
So this time around, I have decided, that I'm going to really tie the cage and everything into the frame. So therefore, the whole thing is rigid now, and I think that's going to be the best choice for me. What it's going to do is it's going to make the suspension work. The stock stuff really has a lot of flex to it. And when you're slow rock crawling, that's a fine thing. But I like going faster. And, of course, we do our real hammers experience and stuff. Jeff Perkins and I would still love to do, the Unlimited Classic KOH again in both of our Jeeps, but we'll see if that happens. But meantime, we're doing our real hammers stuff. And then, of course, my favorite kind of wheeling is to go out to the hammers anyways, and just rip around with my buddies. Even when I'm out at Sand Hollow and stuff, I, haul from, the bridge all the way out to wherever we're going. So that's, to me, that's part of the fun. You know, I didn't build something like this. And by the way, the faster I go, the better it feels. So again, if you haven't ever gotten a ride in one of our vehicles, you need to get one because it'll blow your mind. You have no idea what's even possible. What else you got, James?
Lawrence LJ, any extra frame reinforcements besides near the link connections or like any weak points that you focus on?
So I'm assuming he's asking about an LJ since he's.
Yeah, Lawrence LJ.
Yeah.
I assume LJ.
Yeah. So, you know, our friend Richard Garrett did put some reinforcement gussets in on his, right in this region, right here. You know, where you're kind of near the front body mount and the frame bends up. That tends to be a kind of a susceptible spot, and it's one of those places that he put some reinforcements in. We've never seen a problem like, well, you've got an aftermarket frame, but.
The Growler originally got taken out because of that.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Jordan was running it at that competition.
Motor and like.
Yeah.
On it, it just.
Yeah. Jordan was driving my Growler at a rock crawling competition, and it had those big concrete things, and he was going for the fast time, and when he came over, it like landed on it, and the frame like flexed enough that the steering pulled out, and it was never quite the same after that. So I think it bent the frame, and that's kind of when we were, you know, got a new frame and brought it back as what it is today, Growler 2.0. So yeah, it can happen depending on how hard you are in your vehicle. Most people don't really want to thrash their vehicle, so I always keep that in perspective. Like I said before, it's nice to just overbuild your vehicle and then you know it's not an issue. I saw a thread today this morning on Facebook, again, talking about people on 40s with Dana 44s. And, you know, there was a bunch of people in there like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm getting away with it. I'm not a throttle jockey. And my only comment was, okay, it's going to work until the day you got to tow your buddy off the trail, and it will break the next time you go out. So you just, guys, all this stuff, even with 70s, you know, we're right on the edge of, you know, can this stuff hold up? And, you know, there's a lot of this stuff just ages out. That's why, you know, like every year when we get ready for King of the Hammers, everything's brand new. We just put all new stuff on the race car because things fatigue, and you don't want to spend all the money to get to the race and have it break, you know, a few miles from the finish line, which, by the way, there's always a few cars a few miles from the finish line. So,
Okay. It is 6 o'clock.
it is?
One last question.
And then I want to get to events, okay?
Yeah, so one last question,
Sure.
events, and then wrap it up. So, Sniper Joe, I have Curry VXR 60s, 71 inches wide. Do I need different axles to go with the Elite?
No, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Okay.
The axles we spec are 70, so if you're 70 or wider, you're fine, okay? And that'll be good. All right, let's talk about events now. We've got several upcoming events that I want to invite everybody to join us at, and this is the one, High Desert Roundup. So in about a month, on May 22nd through 25th, we all get together for High Desert Roundup out near Barstow, California. It's a big event. It's multi-day. There's Jeep runs, there's night runs, there's Jeep games. It is a lot of fun. It's family friendly, so if you want to bring the wife and kids, there's stuff for them to do. There's a great raffle. This is a fundraiser for Cal 4-Wheel. This is the Southern District big fundraiser. So they're one of the organizations that help keep our trails open, our areas open. And I absolutely, you know, ask you guys to help keep, you know, something like this going, and you come out and have fun. Whether you want to camp or stay in a nearby motel, or come for the day, or stay for all 4 days, whatever, you know, suits your fancy. You could absolutely radical stuff that, you know, a build Jeep on 42s will have a good time, or a struggle. You know, normally, but when you're on 42s, a struggle is a good time. Or if you're in a completely stock, you know, Jeep or Rubicon, there's trails for you too. So they lead all the trails, and there's other vendors there, and it's all staged out at the /X Cafe. And I think I've got, so this is the event, the official flyer, and this is one of the trails. So there is a go around to this, so I don't want you to get scared if that, there you go, there's a guy in a stock JL on 37s, and Rubicon, of course, and he was able to get around out there. There's Shane and his Wolverine Elite equipped, and there's, this is in the back area of /X Cafe. We did a big group photo. So, by the way, if you would like to camp with us, you're welcome to. On our website, actually, let's go back to that here. There's 2 different things. You can sign up, which will take you to a Cal 4 Wheels page, or if you click on this, it'll bring you to another form you can fill out that says, if you'd like to camp with us, please let us know. So just let us know, you know, what you're bringing, how long you're going to stay. You know, have kids, you're by yourself, whatever. Friendly pets on a leash are welcome. So this is the crew that ran last year's wet lap race, and that is super fun. And oh, here's the video. So that's still in here. Yeah, this is a good little, here, look at all the GenRight Jeeps that came out. I mean, they come from all over the place, and super fun. Here we are getting ready for a Pumpkin Eater run, and there I am in original version Terremoto. There's Jeff and Banshee. There's Patrick back there. I think that's Jamie sitting there. Here comes Andrew and Pay Dirt. Patrick and Shamrock. There's Pay Dirt. Oh, there I am having a little bit of fun. There's Shamrock. That's a Tracer. There's Jamie in the Growler. And you can see there's buggies and stuff out there. There's Jeff and Banshee. These were some options on another trail that we ran. We typically run like a morning and an afternoon. There's Ed in Gringo 392, which is here at the shop right now. There's Sergeant Jeep in his Elite built. There's Kelly and Silver Surfer. I mean, you know, every GenRight. And then we all sit by the fire in the evenings and listen to music and talk. And it's a very unique event. It is really fun, and I encourage you, if you can afford to come out for a day or the entire weekend, you will have a good time. Everybody's super friendly, and here we are all sitting out back at the /X Cafe. You can order breakfast, lunch, and dinner there, and then here's more on our wet lap race, where you try and keep the water in the bowl. It's hard because the course is rough. So it's fun though. It's super fun, and you can win a trophy as well. All right. So I think that's about it on all this stuff, and we've got some real jokesters out there too, and there they go. All right, so thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday.